Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hey, welcome to Be My Guest. This is Jan Lewis. Today we have as a park ranger Kevin Klyberg, and he is the park ranger of the Blackstone River Valley National Park. And I've been trying to get someone on from the national park for years.
And here I am.
And this is terrific. And I was able, how did I find your email? How did I connect with you?
You sent me an email. I'm not sure whether you went to our park website or you just got a hold of me somehow, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
I'm
me
glad
too.
to be here.
You've been the park ranger for how many years now? Did you
Just
say?
under 22.
Just under 22. So you started in your 20s.
Yeah.
She was just a kid when he started.
That's right.
What got you interested in it?
So I have a history background. My undergraduate degree, I got a master's in history over at UConn, and I'm from the area. I grew up down in Lincoln, Rhode Island. And, and
where the mall is, right?
Yeah, where the mall is.
I know that is.
And literally where I grew up, I had the Blackstone Canal in my backyard, and so this is my story, I thought this was a great opportunity that I could sort of try to tell part of my own story, but also this wonderful, nationally significant story here. It's just such a rich tapestry to play with here in the Blackstone Valley.
So fascinated you from the beginning when you were a kid?
Yeah.
And so you went to college, and what did you major in?
I was a history major.
You were a history major, and when you got out, what made you think, something, I want to do something different with this, or apply it to this?
It's funny you ask. So when I first got out of college, like most kids, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
I don't know if any of you or any of the folks watching, there's a tour boat down in Rhode Island, the Explorer.
Yeah.
And they were looking for tour guides. And I'm like, well, I can talk on a boat for a couple weeks. That sounds like a nice summer job.
Did that?
So yeah, I did that for about a year and a half. And at that point, we were doing like 8 tours a day on Saturdays.
Is that thing like, it's not bumpy, it's a nice
smooth
ride.
Smooth, gentle
All right,
ride.
I'll be okay.
Yeah.
No.
Because they're basically on the mill pond, so it's a nice, gentle ride. And so I did hundreds of tours, and I realized, I'm pretty good at this, and I knew the area, and it was just wonderful to be out on the river. And then after I did that for about a year and a half or so, there were some jobs with the Park Service, and I applied, and here I am. So
was it from there you became a ranger?
There's a period I worked as actually a consultant with the Park Service. They were putting out a whole bunch of walking tour brochures, and I was hired as a writer for about half a dozen of those.
That's got to be fun, though.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And then a few months later they had some ranger openings, and I applied, and here I am.
And that was the. Huh.
Yeah.
Now you are not the park ranger that I have seen on a lot of the TV.
Right. That's my colleague Chuck Arning. He just retired a few months ago. I've been in a few of those episodes over the years, but Chuck is the host, and 75 episodes. He just finished number 75 before.
It's been years that I'll turn on a cable and I'll see him on there.
Yeah, they're still out there. Yeah, that's been on. He started that would have been about 93. So yeah, it's been going for quite a while.
Have you done the actual canoeing down?
Oh yes.
You did?
Yes. We did the entire river a couple times. So
all right, now Kevin has this. I'm delighted. He did all the work here on what's coming up. The Blackstone River Valley National Historical Park. All the things that are coming up. Ranger walkabouts. July. Go for it. What's coming up?
So our first one we're going to be kicking off in Whitensville.
Yeah, that's where I lived for a long time.
Hey. So just so folks understand, so we've had the Blackstone Heritage Corridor for over 30 years, and that covers the entire Blackstone Valley, 25 cities and towns, including Upton, of course. And then back in 2014, we established the new national park, which is within the corridor, but it's the smaller sites. With our walkabouts, we're looking to focus on the park sites, but also to get out and about in the rest of the community.
Yeah.
And so Whitensville is one of those villages within the park, so that's where we're kicking things off there.
The Whiten Mill parking lot.
Yeah, so if you're on Douglas Road, it's sort of the back end.
Not far from
Alternatives.
Yes.
Yeah, it's right across the street from
Heading for
Alternatives.
Douglas.
That's the one, yeah. So it's that big parking lot, so we'll have plenty of room.
On July 5th, and what time?
So all of our programs are 6:30.
Okay.
They're
that's easy.
Yeah, Thursday evening, 6:30, and they're free. We bounce around from site to site, but but we are free.
All right, on the 12th.
The 12th, we're going to be right down the road in Hopedale, the Little Red Shop. That's another one of our park sites.
Is that little thing that overlooks the lake, the pond?
It is.
What is that?
Well, you'll have to show up and find out, but no, I'll tell you.
I've seen it forever, but I don't know.
Well, see, now you have to know.
Okay.
So the Little Red Shop is the original home of the Draper Loom Company.
Yeah.
And so, the Drapers started in that tiny little workshop, and what they started there is what becomes that ginormous brick building across the street. So it's just this wonderful American success story of literally this tiny workshop becoming a global company.
And they're trying to decide now what to do with that giant under.
I know, and they've been working on that for quite a while. So
I can think of so many things you could do with it. But okay, so the Little Red Shop.
Red Shop over in Hopedale.
Okay, I've been by a Blackstone Valley Nature Walk coming up on the 19th.
Yeah, so then it's down. We're doing a couple things. We have one of the places in the park is this. In the national park is the state park down in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and so this one's going to be leaving from. It's a little funny for folks to maybe figure this out, but it's a visitor center that's on Route 295. So you actually have to get on the highway to get to a nature walk, which I know sounds a little funny, but right out the back door is the big spur trail of the bike path. Takes you right down along the way there. Right along, and then it's this wonderful spot. You can see. It's funny because from there down to the river, it's only about 100-foot difference in height, but there's 3 different ecosystems that exist in this little area just because of the height differential and where the water is, and it's fascinating just how much nature can change in such a tiny area.
Well, the Blackstone River area, doesn't it start in Worcester, go all the way down to Woonsocket?
All the way to Providence, yes. Yeah,
I lived in Providence. It goes to Providence?
Yep. So the Blackstone River, when it goes over the Falls of Pawtucket, it changes its name, becomes the Seekonk. So, and it changes its name because then it becomes a tidal estuary because the tides of Narragansett Bay push all the way up to Pawtucket.
I had no idea that it went all the way down.
Yeah, and so those waters starting up in Worcester, they end up, and so that's the river when you're going from Providence to East Providence on 195. That's the water flowing underneath you. Well, half of it started up in Worcester on its way down here.
So if I was going to visit somebody over in Pawtucket area, it would still be there.
Yep, yeah.
All right, now you got something coming up in Cumberland on the 26th.
So in Cumberland on the 26th, we're going to be talking about it's exploring the area in Valley Falls, which is Cumberland and actually going into Central Falls. And there we're going to be taking a look. It's a great Portuguese community, which is there as well. So we have all these wonderful ethnic groups, people who came to work in the mills, and these wonderful pockets. And it's funny because you have the town lines right there, and you have 2 different Portuguese clubs within spitting distance of each other, but in different towns. So you have to have one of each. So, but it's a great story, great place to explore.
We are talking with Kevin Klyberg, and he's a park ranger for the Blackstone River Valley National Park. Kevin, any questions, or they want to know anything about what's going on? How do they reach you? Sure.
So to get a hold of me, easiest thing to do is to take a look at our website, which is www.nps.gov, for short for government, and then /BLRV. You can also reach me at the email, which is kevin_Klyberg@nps.gov. And then we have an office just down the road at the Linwood Mill that we're sharing with the folks at the Heritage Quarter.
Okay, that's near the car wash. You go down past
across the street. Yep, or diagonally across the street.
So you're in the big old brick building.
Yep, we're in the back of that. Yep.
Okay, I didn't know you guys were over there now.
So we have an office there, and then I have an office down at the Slater Mill in Pawtucket. So we're got.
What's the most fun part that you love about being a park ranger? Is there one most, or just a bunch?
There are a bunch. I mean, there's these wonderful things where it's like, hey, I'm getting paid to go canoeing today, or I'm getting paid to go take a walk in the woods.
Meet a lot of people and tour them.
Exactly. And we work at places where other people go on vacation, so there's something to be said for that. I really do enjoy, sharing these wonderful stories with people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I'm really excited about, the fact that we have this new park establishing itself, and it's been taking a while to get it going, but in many ways, like a place like the Slater Mill, for example, it's down in Pawtucket. It's the first cotton mill in America, and
I didn't know that.
See, and
here in the north,
in the entire United States, first water powered cotton mill in the whole United States.
Down south.
Well, see, this is because you're right. That's where the cotton is, but the moving water and the technology was in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
So they would bring it up here?
They would bring the cotton all the way up here to be spun.
Is it still, are they using it at all now?
So right now the Slater Mill is a museum.
Yeah.
And so we tell the story of Samuel Slater coming here to Rhode Island and getting that mill up and running. The adjacent mill is the Wilkinson Machine Shop. His brother-in-law is one of the mechanics who built machines there. That does have a working water wheel, so you get to see that whole process.
I love
of
the
using
sound
the
of that.
It's wonderful.
Reminds me over in Sudbury. What's that place in Sudbury?
No,
No, I can't. I know.
I have to think. Yeah, I can't think.
But
of
that's
it.
not part of the Blackstone.
That's just yes. We don't talk about.
No,
that.
we don't.
But yeah, so my office is in that Wilkinson mill. So when they turn on the wheel, you feel the building rock. It's this very alive feeling, and it's
you could
very
take that,
organic.
and that'd be a nice soothing, what do you call it, meditation tape to go to bed with.
It's a little noisy.
Oh,
yeah,
well.
because you got the gears and the
Okay.
belts. I mean, because it's a factory. It's industry at work, but it's fascinating.
Well, we're coming up now. We're in August.
Okay.
No, yeah. Exploring the Great Road Farms and Factories in Lincoln.
Yeah, so over in Lincoln, Rhode Island, the Great Road Historic District, there's a number of buildings along the way there, and they're just opened up at the Chase Farm, right on Great Road in Lincoln, which is Route 123 in Lincoln, right off of Route 146. And they moved an old schoolhouse there, the historic dairy farm, there's a historic house just down the road, and an historic mill on the other side.
All right, I know 146 heading for Providence. That's the only way I know how to
That's
get
right.
to the other side. All right, you take which exit?
It's called the Breakneck Hill Road exit. It's just before you hit Lincoln Woods. So as you're going down the road, Lincoln Woods, you're actually going along the side of the Lincoln Woods
Is it
State
the same
Park.
one as for the mall?
It's just after that.
Okay,
It's
so
just
you take the
after
one
that.
just after that,
Yeah.
and you get off, and then you just follow.
Go on down the hill, and you'll see this gorgeous stone mansion at the bottom of
And
the
that's
hill.
it.
Well, that's the Hearthside house, and then just 500 feet down is this old farmstead, which is now open, and that's what we're meeting for that event. But it's this wonderful story, and it's the Great Road that went from Providence up to Mendon, and so it's this historic road that goes back for 400 years.
See, I had no clue.
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. I think a lot of us out there have no clue about the history of it. How long do they all start at 6:30 in the evening? How long do they last? Do you have children with you or what?
Oh, sure. They go about an hour. Usually we try to wrap them up in 45 minutes to an hour. And then, of course, there's always folks who want to sit around and chat for a while, which is fine. And
Yeah.
if you're done after 45 minutes and want to go get some ice cream or move around,
That's it.
that's fine. And then the folks who want to stay and chat, we do that too. So.
Up in Milford, in Millbury, there's like a bike trail.
Yes.
Are they all coordinated with?
So, we're somewhat involved in that. The Heritage Corridor has been a huge promoter of that effort. That bike path, it's being built in segments. Right now, that segment in Worcester is about 1.5 miles to 2 miles.
Bilberry, you mean?
I'm sorry, Bilberry.
Yeah,
sorry,
Bilberry,
my apologies.
yeah. I've seen it many times.
Yep, and then they just opened last year. There's about a 4.5 mile segment that just opened up in starting at the state line in Blackstone and going on up just into Uxbridge.
Okay.
And eventually they're all going to connect. And then in Rhode Island, there's about 12, 13 miles of bike path that's right now going from Woonsocket right on down into Cumberland. Then there's on-road sections that you can keep on
And
going.
then there's Milford. I'm not sure where it goes, though. I haven't been on it.
That trail, so obviously the Blackstone Trail is the north-south along the Blackstone, but then there's these other trails along what's known as the SNET, Southern New England Trunkline Trail, and so that's another trail that's going that goes along
another one.
east-west. Yeah, so there's bike paths have just become extremely popular in recent years, and they're great. They're a great way of getting out there.
I remember on Cape Cod, they called it the Cape Cod Rail Trail.
Yep.
Years ago, I got on that. That was a lot of fun, and it's not all this. It was pretty.
Right.
We rode our bikes along it.
Right.
And so, was that idea so popular that they began to take it and use it more in this area?
They really kicked off. It's probably been 20, 30 years for some of them. One of the big things that's been going on recently, and for example, the piece that they just put in Blackstone and Millville, it's what they call Rail the Trail, and so you have these abandoned railway lines, but of course they're nice and smooth, and they've already been graded, and they're usually, they're not on the main streets because you've got the trains going back and forth. but they're perfect to put a bike path
Yeah.
on. So that's been one of the things that people have really been looking at. And of course, rail lines often are connecting population centers. So,
Yeah.
I can hop on and say, Worcester, and then, ride my way on down.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I'd rather ride my bike than walk it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, so eventually that bike path will be running from City Hall in Worcester all the way down to India Point in Providence, which is right there on the harbor.
From
right at-
City Hall?
Yep.
But
City
how
Hall.
do you get through all of the city with this?
So for the first little chunk at City Hall, and this has not been finished yet, for the first little chunk at City Hall, there will be an on-road route for, I think it's even under a mile. Then you'll be getting off-road onto the bike path, so like that segment that's in Worcester and Millbury right now, that'll be connected on. And then it'll be coming its way on down the valley, hooking up in Rhode Island for the pieces that are already built.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
how they're hooking up, because I see Worcester is just this big city. And how do we get this path, a bike, whatever?
So in some of the cities, they will have to have on-road bike lanes, but as much as possible, they're getting off-road. And it's funny. You think of these cities as being, all pavement and buildings,
Yeah.
but there's little parks here and there, and they really have been looking to find the routes there. Part of it also is, as much as possible, they're following the route of the Blackstone River, and of course, where you have water,
Sure.
it's often you have a bit of green space around it. So they're sort of connecting these pieces together along the way.
All right, so August 9th, we have in Grafton, the Praying Village.
Yeah, so one of our great stories here with the Nipmuc Nation, the local Native American tribe, they had a village that was established by the Reverend John Eliot with the idea of teaching Christianity to the Native Americans. And so one of those village sites was right there in Grafton, and it's a site that's been preserved. It's now owned, it's publicly owned land. And we with the Corridor and the Park Service helped do some archaeological work over there.
Is that
over
what
the
the
years.
powwow is every year?
That's actually the Nipmuc still have a small reservation that's
Yeah.
just down the hill.
I've been to.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah, they even take a van, and so you don't have to. I mean, in the hot weather, walking up that hill is rough.
Yeah.
So they have a little van that will take you up to the powwow. I've been to that numerous times.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
And they've been great partners with us over the years, and it's such a wonderful story to share. It's another this rich tapestry of stories that we have to share.
Yeah, we have so many. The Nipmuc, I do remember the name of that. Now, on the 16th, my birthday, Raising the Curtain. Come see our new exhibits.
Oh, yes. So actually, again, down at the State Park in Rhode Island, there's a small museum down there, the Wilbur Kelly House, and then along the bike path. We're right now, as in literally next week, putting in a couple of new signs along the way, so as people go along the bike path, they can learn a little bit about the history.
Well, I like that.
Yeah.
You stop and read where you are.
Exactly. So we've got those coming in, and so hey, we've got these new signs in the ground. Let's talk about them, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how do you go around and write 10 new signs? What stories do you pick? How do you pick the
Yeah,
stories?
how do you pick that?
Well, so that's a big how do you tell a story in basically 10 pieces of paper?
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, it's a lot of writing and rewriting.
And there's a lot of. How do you pick? Is this story more important to the historical part than this one? How do you? That's got to be a trial.
Yeah, it's been about a 2-year process.
Yeah.
Since the first meeting we had until we're now putting them in the ground, and we got a lot of people together, both from the Park Service. We brought in consultants and designers, and then we're working with the folks in the local community and the local historians, and not just the history. We have some of the natural history in there as well too. And so what are some of the stories we can tell? And then you have to start thinking logical things like is there a parking lot here? I mean, is this sign going to be in the middle of nowhere and no one's going to go by it, and all those other factors? The really exciting thing for us, and so we're going to have about 30 signs going in different spots around the valley, about 10 of them for this one spot, is as part of the contract, we hired an artist who created some brand new artwork to try to show. And of course, it's an artist's impression. We don't know exactly, but a lot of these things, we don't have pictures of.
Yeah.
And so, based on descriptions, based on what
see
we
it,
know,
doing the bird flying or something like that.
right? So let's paint, an image of what that could look like. So, for example, the one that just popped into my head, that we did a bird's eye view of what the Pawtucket Falls area would have looked like right around the time when Slater Mill opens up.
Right.
And obviously it's a completely different scene today.
I can see a watercolor scenes on these signs. I can see it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I can definitely, I could picture it immediately, and that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's been, yeah, they're fantastic, and it's funny, because first when you see them on the computer screen, they're this big, you're like, oh yeah, that should be good,
Yeah.
and then when they deliver this 2-foot by 3-foot panels, wow!
And with your writing background, you're the one assigned to that, right?
So we provide some of the background information, and we do a lot of the reviews and editing. But there is a professional writer who does the actual writing, which is also good because it's you get a single voice to cover the entire series. But it is also good to have someone else who isn't us.
Yeah, a little bit more of an outside.
Yeah, and that also allows, again, a professional writer, and it can also sort of step back and say, well, that's almost a story, but what's missing, and ask those questions.
It's sort of an objective point of view.
Exactly.
All right, before I forget, are you the person who goes after the person who is fishing and doesn't have a license?
I'm not.
Okay.
I am not.
Who is the person who does that?
There are game wardens depending on whether you're in Rhode Island or Massachusetts. Like there's the environmental police in Rhode Island and things like that. And so those are those folks. Although years ago, one of my colleagues happened to be walking along a trail, and this guy saw him and threw his fishing pole in the water. He's like, "Boy, I hope that wasn't expensive because I'm not the game warden." So.
Did you tell? You didn't say anything to the guy?
No, he told him. He says, I hope see if you can rescue that." Because
you should have stuck there and see if the guy rushed in to go get the... Oh, I thought you were going to tell me he threw the fish in.
No, threw his fishing pole, everything.
He was that scared.
He was that scared.
I just had to ask that question.
Yeah.
I always wonder, can you get away with it? I don't think so. I don't know. Now, we have coming up on the 23rd of August, Slatersville.
Yeah, so Slatersville, right there on the Rhode Island border, that's the first planned mill village. Sam Slater and his brother, when they needed more room than they had at Pawtucket, so they moved up to Slatersville. And so one of our rangers is going to be exploring Slatersville and sort of talking about, this village is now over 200 years old. How do these pieces stay here?
Is Slatersville the oldest?
It's what we consider to be the oldest planned mill village in America.
Even older than Hopedale?
Oh, yep, by about 40 years, yep.
And Whitensville?
By about 10 years, yeah.
Okay, they're climbing up there, so Slatersville is still the oldest.
Yeah, so, and it really was the matter of, Slatersville, they got it going just before there was a big boom. Whitensville's only about 3 years younger than Slatersville. There's a whole bunch of villages that got formed around 1810 or so, and Slatersville's 1807.
What about Millville?
Millville, again, that's a little bit later as far as the textile mill. And when we talk about this, we're talking about mill villages.
Yeah.
So obviously, of course, there have been grist mills and saw mills for hundreds of years before, Sam Slater ever showed up. But the idea of building a mill, and it's going to be big enough, we're going to have a large workforce, and now we have to build schools and churches and stores and all that, that population center. So yeah, Slatersville was that first one where they, really determined, well, we need the water. Here's where the water is. And at the time, they're going to build what was the biggest mill in America. It was going to be 4 times the size of the one they had at Pawtucket. It was going to have about 300 workers.
Yeah.
And the place they picked was this tiny hamlet with 10 houses. And so, if you're going to build a factory of that size, well, obviously you need
housing.
Exactly.
But that's what the Whiten family did.
They did. So
they did that up. Right?
Oh yes, yeah.
The village is very much still there.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful, and that's one of the things which, when we've been working with creating this national park, we realized that the villages themselves are a critical element to our story, because obviously this is where the people live.
The row houses, right?
The houses and the buildings. Yeah. But one of the things that I really love is that when we're telling our story here in the Blackstone Valley, it's not a museum. There aren't velvet ropes around Whitensville. It is still a viable living community. And I think it's fantastic that this community that was created 200-something years ago still works. People still want to live in Whitensville because it's a wonderful place. So the work that the Whitens did 200 years ago, it still shows.
Well, we have a guy who what's his name? I think he does bees also. He dresses up as Old Man Whiten, and there's a tour bus. I don't know.
Oh, yes.
I can't think of his name. He's terrific. He's been there for a long time.
Yeah, that's Ken. Ken Warchel.
Ken Warchel.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a shout out to Ken.
Yeah.
He does bees, too.
He does a lot. Yeah, we've been working with him quite a bit in the past.
Dresses up as Old Man Whiten.
Yep, and he does the tours.
Does the tour.
Yep.
All right, August 30th.
August 30th, so we're going to wrap up one last one down there by the Kelly House in Lincoln, and it's going to be talking about the sort of changing of a landscape. So now you go to this place, it's a park, and lovely area, but there had been a mill there, and there was houses around, and so sometimes when we look at these landscapes, we don't think of, well, something used to be here, and so how did this evolution occur to get to what we see today?
Now, Science Saturdays. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we're talking with Kevin Klyberg, and he is a park ranger for the Blackstone River Valley National Park. Kevin, again, how can they reach you?
So if folks are looking to get a hold of me, you can take a look at our website, www.mps.gov/BLRV, or just punch in the park on Google. You can get me on my email, kevin_Klyberg@mps.gov. As I said, we have an office down in Linwood. We have an office at Slater Mill, and come on out, and then you'll see us up and around the valley at different sites as well too. So anytime you see one of our rangers, feel free to say hi.
How many rangers are there, Kevin?
So right now, you're looking at about half of the ranger force. It's funny, like I said, the Heritage Corridor has been around for 30 years, and we used to have park rangers working for the corridor. So at one point we had 8 to 10 rangers at different points. It's funny because as the park is being created, we sort of like went down, and then we're going to get bigger again. But right now we're
Is Purgatory Chasm part of this or not?
No, it's not. Purgatory is a state park, but we've done things with them over the years, but it's not within the national park.
All right, we've got a few minutes left. Science Saturdays, what are those?
Sure. So one of the things we realized, again, this is at the state park down in Lincoln, 2 things. One is not everyone wants to hear the history story. Breaks my heart, but that's okay. And then also is that this isn't just a history story. I mean, we have this wonderful river as the centerpiece. You sort of got to talk about some of the science here. And so we decided we're kicking off this year for the first time this series of science programs down at the Kelly House, down at the Blackstone River State Park. That's 1075 Lower River Road in Lincoln, Rhode Island.
What exit? Up 146.
For that one, it'd be the Route 116, which is the Lincoln Mall exit, Albee and Ashton.
All right.
So on every Saturday, July and August, and we're going to take it into September 1st.
What times?
10:30 and 1:30, so we're running it twice during the day.
And it's free and open to the public?
It's free and open to the public, and we've got a bunch of different programs
Oh,
that are
yeah,
out
Frisbee
there.
golf?
Yeah, so
What is that?
So you're probably familiar with Frisbee golf. So what you throw the Frisbees at a target, but what we've done is the targets, when you get them, will have a little card which will teach you about, you're looking at an oak tree, and this is here. This is a sycamore tree. So there's a little bit of science behind it. So we're going to trick them to learn something as they're
Water
going
testing, magnets, science, blowout?
So at the end, we're going to have we're sort of like a final wrap-up day of all the things that are out there. So it's almost good, the natural stuff with water and soil testing, learning about the flora and fauna. We've got things like magnets and water power, and it's really just a chance to sort of learn some of the science that's behind our history stories here. But it's also a chance. I mean, it's hands-on. It's for kids. It's for families, and getting people to come out and enjoy the park. And one of the other things which is really neat, where we're located had been a farm for quite a while, and there was a historic barn there which blew down in a storm about 30 years ago. We just built this wonderful replica barn, and we said, we've got this wonderful space, let's fill it with kids. So every Saturday, come on down and learn a little something, and then it's a beautiful park. You got the canal, the river, there's a bike path, there's fields. Bring a picnic, enjoy yourself, and maybe learn something.
What's the way? Are you connected with West River Bend Farm over there in Uxbridge?
Riverbend. So that's a Massachusetts state park.
Okay.
We do a ton of work with them over the years.
I
Actually,
brought my son there for one of these science type things one time.
Yeah, and actually we've run. I didn't bring it with me, but we're running once a month. We're doing night sky programs there, so astronomy programs at Riverbend Farm.
Really?
I think the next one is July 25th, I think is the next one coming up. But that's again on our website, and also you can find us on Facebook too, so you can see a little bit more about us.
So Kevin, can you leave these with us and post them?
I will be glad.
Okay,
they're
so
online, but yeah, you can.
Sure, if you're coming over to the Upton Library, you'll see when you come in the lobby, you see the huge bulletin boards. We're going to leave these about all the things going on.
I'll even put a few downstairs.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, stack the deck.
Definitely. Post them up there for people to see. And it's a great place. Many guests have use that bulletin board galore, and it's a great way. People do stop in that
Yeah.
lobby. Thanks for being with us.
Well,
Kevin.
thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Maybe I'll see you in one of your
Please.
one of your places
Yeah.
out there.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we'll see you next time. I'll be my guest.